Yeah, so I said to you quite a bit back that the very big thing coming in the future is community radio. And with the demise of what Carl and I predicted 18 months ago, just recently the BBC have announced that they're reinstating the staff on a temporary basis, which, if you read between the lines, you know what I'm saying. So I think community radio is going to be the only thing left in the locale, and people still want local radio. They want to know about Tommy Robinson selling carpet roll ends on Tommyfield Market. They want to know about Barmy Mick no longer being on Salford Market. There is a very, very real organisation of people that want local radio, and this is why we decided to come here today, Flynny.
Where are we?
We're here at Oldham Community Radio in Tommyfield Market in their luxurious studios, which are very, very nice. And we're talking to Ian Wolstenholme. Now, he's the Community Projects Manager. Am I right in that, Ian?
That's close enough.
And he's with us today, and we're going to talk about community radio. For example, how did you get involved in it?
I didn't expect that one coming.
Well, there you go.
Well, I know I don't look it, considering I'm only 21 plus VAT, but I started in hospital radio in Oldham, Radio Cavell, named after Nurse Edith Cavell.
Did it yourself once?
Yeah. So that was back in back in 1980. But I mean, that was radio with a baked bean can on either end and a bit of string if you were lucky.
Damp string
at best. And then over the last 4 decades, things have got sort of different and bigger and better. I moved into a proper job, a proper career, which meant that I had to sort of take a bit of a step back. So even though I kept my size 12 toe, dipped in the local radio experience, I didn't perhaps devote as much time as I should have done to it. And then the veterinary world, which I was involved with, like a lot of places, became very corporatised, and everybody was buying up all the sort of family businesses. So I moved out of that, and then it was just at that point when Oldham Community Radio had moved in these, I'm still smiling, luxurious premises about 5 years ago. So it was then that I sort of renewed an old acquaintance, like putting on a pair of comfortable old slippers.
And with you brought those managerial skills.
That's very kind of you to say so, Fred. I suppose because having managed a veterinary practice for 15 years or so, you've got to be all things to all men and women. You know, you don't have a human resources department, you don't have a health and safety, you don't have... it's down to the practice manager.
We used to call that risk and assessment, and we used to call it personnel.
Yeah.
The job's the same, the name's been changed.
Exactly. In that kind of industry, the practice manager does everything, the whole kit and caboodle.
What's your concept, Flynny? You're not a radio person as such. You've been a guest many times.
Yeah,
but
true. I'd like to know, as Fred rightly said, I'm not a big radio man, but what do you think Oldham Radio does provide for the local community? Is it a vital asset, or...?
It is a vital asset, but then again, I'm bound to say that, aren't I? The difference, if you like, between, and we might be touching on this, what people perceive as local radio, i.e. the BBC type scenario, which was always omnipresent. You know, there was always sort of top radio, 2, 1, 4, all the rest of it, then local radio, commercial radio, community radio, which has been around now for about 15, 16 years, student radio, hospital radio, all the different levels. And I suppose really that the biggest difference between what we do and what any other network or local network does is we use this very strange word called narrowcasting rather than broadcasting. Yeah. And it just means that, and I'll give you an example, during COVID, when the whole world was locked down, there was a listener that got in touch. We had to carry on as normal as best we could because we were a key worker. And there was a lady that got in touch with the station and said, one of my relatives has died. We can't have as many people at the funeral as we would normally have if times were normal. So, is there anything you can do? They were a big music fan. We can't get 110 people in the creme and play the greatest hits of deceased Uncle Bob kind of thing. So they came up with this very quirky idea of the neighbours that wanted to pay their respects to the dear departed would be all along this road as the hearse drove by with the radios outside, and us at Oldham Community Radio would play at certain times a particular favourite piece of music for that sort of funeral
For the cortege. Brilliant.
And we just suddenly realised that things like that could not be done by ever any sort of other channel
thing, yeah.
You know, they wouldn't have the interest, they wouldn't have the resources. Well, they'd have the resources, but they wouldn't have the time. And it was just little things like that make community radio. The clue's in the name. You know, it's 90% community, 10% radio. If we're being as per the Ofcom description. So that's really it in a nutshell. You know, but now, of course, because in the news recently with all the cutbacks with BBC and what have you, especially on local territory, there's never perhaps been more opportunity for community radio to sort of spread its arms and do a little bit more to fill that gap.
See, most ILR stations, independent local radio stations, commercial stations, the content is basically music. Now, community is about people.
Give you a clue. This morning, we've literally just, as we're chatting now, a couple of hours ago, I was in Greenfield, just up the road, with a bit of kit, and it's very simple these days. Technology's shone on us miraculously over the last few years. Little laptop PC, bit of this, bit of that, and we were doing a live 2-hour broadcast from a biscuit factory in Greenfield, a one-man cottage industry, who just happened to say, would you like to come along to my business? We've been going a year. We want to sort of spread the message into the community. Can you help us out? Of course we can. We'll go wherever. We'll go to an old folks home if we can get in, of course. We'll go to wherever to actually get, if you like, under the skin of the community. People want to come in here and see knobs and switches and, oh, look, a big microphone, just like, you know, people's perception of radio is. But the fact that we can go out now to places like that and sit around a table as we did, eating biscuits, drinking coffee, very nice coffee that it was too, and chatting about success stories.
This is exactly what Flynny does for Salford Media. Well, you tell them, Flynny, you know best what you do.
Well, as you say, for example, yesterday we was covering a food bank's one of our things close to our heart. Yeah, I'm sure it is in Oldham. There was a lady, Sammy Woodward. She's a councillor. Sammy Bellamy. She runs a food bank. Just her and another volunteer. And this Christmas, they're going to provide 500 meals for at the 5 gateways in Eccles. There'll be 100 meals served. Now she's doing this all off her own back, and we've been down and interviewed her, just to promote her, to show what a good deed she's doing, and also to get other people involved. And since then, she's been contacted by people who want to help her prepare the food, deliver the food, and help out. Now,
this is the knock-on effect of community radio.
It wouldn't have happened without
community involvement.
Yeah, it would probably have been too big a story for, say, the BBC, GMR. Yeah. We fit the niche perfectly, and the result is happiness for Sammy. Yeah. And volunteers get involved. And that wouldn't have happened without
an awareness.
Yeah, we spread the word, because we get the viewing figures, we're getting like 40, 50,000 views a week easily. And it's community, that's what it is. And we do our best, don't we?
You do a very good job. He wouldn't tell you that, but I will. They do a very good job. Yeah. And the unsung hero up there, Carl, who's doing all the filming and recording.
Witness protection
scheme. He doesn't like coming piece to camera. He doesn't like doing it, does he, Flynny?
I'm on the run from Cratton next.
So is the future of Oldham Radio safe?
Oh, now there's a leading question, Flynny. The bottom line is we don't know. Where we are now, our luxurious surroundings are going to be bulldozed in the next 12, 18 months. Because Oldham Market, we're in Tommyfield Market, as you said, and that is all being completely redeveloped as part of the council's regeneration project. A lot of the stall, in fact all the stall holders who want to move will be moving down to the local shopping centre in Oldham, which they're kind of remodelling and doing bits and pieces on now. Now, whether we will follow them or not remains to be seen. We've moved around in the 15 years. We've been based down at the Royal Oldham Hospital. We've been based above the driving test centre in Failsworth. So we're a bit nomadic in our ways.
I've been to all of them. Let me just tell you that David McGeely, who it was his baby originally, He asked me would I do an RSL. An RSL is a restricted service licence granted by the Radio Authority to promote and broadcast for 30 days. And you have to do these as trial periods. And he asked me would I do it. He said, I think you've been cruelly treated by the BBC and I'd like you to come and work for us. I said, what's the money like? Alas, no money.
Yeah, no.
I said, I'm sorry, it's not for me. I said, that's a backward. I said, you start off in hospital radio, you move into perhaps an RSL, and then your next stage is if somebody can take you on board, you do proper radio. I said, you're asking me to come out of proper radio where I've been paid decent money to come and work for you, Dave, for nothing.
Well, basically, you do nothing for nothing.
Well, that's it. Quid pro quo, not quo. And I said to him, well, look, I said, if you pay me £5 a day, I was travelling from Wigan to Oldham and back. Pay me £5 a day and I'll do your 30-day RSL for you. And he agreed. It must have come out of his own pocket.
It probably would, because again, a lot of people that have got the heart and soul in community radio, you mentioned David, who's not very well at the moment, but he's still very, very much a figurehead, still our station manager. You know, they do it for that. And they will.
When's Barbara Dignan coming back?
Bring back, it's a bit like the Weatherfield one, bring back the Weatherfield Barbara.
Let me just tell you, the reason why I listen
soon is the answer.
Good. I listen to community radio because it's not perfect.
Sorry if I shouted then, by the way.
It's all right. There's got compressors. He's told us all about that.
How about your shoes?
Mind you, you're like me, you project. You'll probably come across as very loud, like people say I'm too loud, but that's the way it is. I've forgotten the point I was going to make.
Barbara, the fragrant Barbara.
Yeah. No, I listen to community radio, not because it's perfect, but because it's not.
It's exactly.
They make mistakes. So does human life. We all make mistakes.
Not a chance.
And they go to promote a record and they do something that you never do in radio, and that's do a station check and then a time check and then go into a piece of music. You play a piece of music and you come out and you're back, I know, you talk about what's gone on, and then you give your station ident. But it's all a different world to me, and I enjoy it because it's not professional.
It's not dead professional like what Salford City Radio is.
In my hiatus from when I sort of parted the ways with hospital radio, a friend of mine rang me up who lives in Blackpool, and he used to put on dance festivals at the Blackpool Tower.
Of course, you're an organist yourself. Let's not.
Well, so he said, "Can you? My compere's ill. Can you come and do it?" So I said, "I don't mind doing something like that." So I went along, and that very same evening, after the thing, they'd got one of these BBC panels in Preston. You know, they used to have the great and the good on the stage, and they were sort of dissecting what people enjoyed and what they didn't like listening to. And the place was packed. This place in Preston, I don't know, Preston
Guildhall.
Guildhall, was it?
It was a Guildhall, yeah.
And this little old chap with flat cap stood up, and he said, I've listened to this bloke on Radio Lancashire this afternoon, because they did a bit of a promo for it, and they asked me to go along. He were playing his organ, because I took my organ along, and was he called George, the station technician, pulled my organ to pieces and gave it a pat test, before it went on air on the BBC, because they have to do that kind of thing. So he said, I listened to this bloke on radio this afternoon, he were playing his organ, can we have some more of that? And all these pods on the stage went silent, and the presenter lady who'd been doing the interview, a bit like we're doing now, Alison Brown, lovely lady, she said, I think I can see him standing at the back, and the whole crowd just turned and stood and looked at me, and I thought, oh God, what do? You kind of like want to.
You rise to the occasion.
But you rise to the occasion. A couple of weeks later, one of the producers of Radio Lancashire rang me up and said, can you come in and do a bit more on our arts programme? So I said, I don't mind about that. So I went in and did a little roundup of what's on in the organ and keyboard world in Lancashire area. And from there, it kind of went, here's a photocopied version of how to use a BBC desk. The mixing desk. So take it home, read it, you can do it yourself, you know what you're doing, you've done a bit of it. I'm thinking, this is just, I don't think they do that these days.
It's a Concorde picture, isn't it?
But it was so I've kind of done hospital radio, the big boys radio, and then now I'm going to say come down to community, but I don't see it as that. I see it now as another step up on a passion that I have for this kind of medium.
Me too.
Because I haven't got a face for telly.
The one question I wanted to ask, and Carl reminds me, because I'm quite thick these matters. He assures me that DAB radio is the future and FM isn't. Is he correct? Or
he is correct.
Is it a big worry?
He is correct. There's a big surge at the moment for community radio stations. If you wanted to set up a community radio station now, Ofcom, the radio authority as was, would not give you an FM licence.
Right.
There aren't any, end of. You would have to sort of get involved with the small-scale DAB, SSDAB as it's called. We kind of saw the light in a slightly different path at Oldham Community Radio a little while ago, because where we are, our signal's brilliant. We're on 99, can I say it, 99.7 FM.
What is it again?
99.7 FM.
One more time.
Just for good luck.
Yeah.
99.7 FM.
Two will do.
Yeah. And the transmitter's up on the roof of the Civic Centre, so it's pretty much the highest point in Oldham. But, like most things, there's always some black spots in the likes of Saddleworth, and because they're a bit posh round there.
We had to have a repeater from Radio GMR to go round to Saddleworth.
They have hills and things like that.
That's right, in the way.
So hopefully, because now we've managed to become a partner in what has eventually become the successful bid for small-scale DAB in this area, next year, Oldham Community Radio, as well as being on 99.7 FM. How many times can I say that in a minute? Will be on DAB as well. So that hopefully should attract another audience, because people in the cars, the new cars don't have FM radios built into them.
That's right.
So they're all digital.
And let's not forget that Oldham is where the Peterloo massacre started from.
Home of the triangular bandage.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The next door to where the Co-op was founded.
God Lames, is it?
Yeah, what else can we say about
Told
that?
Close, yeah.
And Big Doddy's Coffin. Have you been to see Big Doddy's Coffin?
No.
There's a parish
These
church
are cultural highlights.
in the main
Winston
street.
Churchill.
Winston Churchill and of course Sir William Moulton. Moulton, musician.
See, you're not behind the door, are you? Coming forward with all these names.
Oldham gets a lot of stick for, some might say, valid reasons, others might say short memories, from the glory days of the mill years and things like that.
Sure.
And the council get an awful lot of bashing, and again, we could talk about that all afternoon, but we won't. But genuinely, the people that make these decisions are trying to, despite what you read on the social media malarkey, they are trying to make Oldham shine again, if I can put it in those terms, because there are some cutting people that say the reason we've got the tram line is to, go from Rochdale to Manchester and just cut straight through Oldham.
The one I had was reversing into the future.
Yeah.
We've heard them all. We've heard them all.
No, it's only in jest.
The important thing is that with as we said before, the axe potentially hanging over community radio here, which secretly I hope not. We're touching every bit of wood and everything, but the decision makers, the people that can influence. Case in point, we had a big conference, because every year the 200.
Oh, you've just won an award.
We're Gold Award winners.
Tell me about
now.
that before you say anything else, because that's what I wanted to ask you.
Well,
I've got brain fog and it's just come to me.
Going back to when we came out of COVID, and Boris said, it's all gone away now, it's all, we're not going to get any more of that,
Ka-ching.
We said, well, we came back in here, and I just said to one of my colleagues, I said, it's a bit quiet in here, because, usually the doors are open and people come wandering in and asking for requests and messages to be pumped out over there. And there was nothing, even though the restrictions had been lifted, people were still saying, I'm not going anywhere near anybody else yet. So we said, we need a cunning plan. So when the silly thing is, when we're in a couple of shop units, this is a studio, but out front it's
very capacious.
That's a good word. I like that word. Yes, there's a bit of space there. And the previous tenants had left these shop fittings in front of the window, so was a couple of mannequins on or old vacuum cleaners or anything like that. And when I suddenly looked, I thought, it looks a bit like a stage. And it was a bit of light bulb moment. So I said, hang on, let's get a tin slip curtain off eBay for a couple of quid and hang it at the back. Get a couple of cameras, a bit like, with smiling and all that.
Yeah.
All yours are posher.
Yeah.
And open the door and get interesting people to come along.
I've been to one myself. Bernard Cromarty was playing his squeeze box, his guitar. You were accompanying him on some miniature organ.
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, but gradually people came in through the door. And it's free. So, as part of this Community Radio Awards, I think the category was community and COVID rebuild.
Right.
We put in this entry for what was called Tommyfield Live, which was the name of the programme. We decided to call this Saturday Live thing. So we did that, and we were up against various other people on Saturday night down in a glittering, starstruck evening. Food were all right anyway, down in Bedford.
Yeah.
And, they announced it in reverse order. Bronze goes to blah, blah, blah. Silver goes on. I think we've not won any here. And then the gold winner is Tommyfield Live, at which point, because I'm filming it on my camera, I go, because it was genuinely a shock.
An epiphany moment.
An epiphany moment indeed, as you might say, Fred. And so then I was dressed, like with just trousers and a smart jumper, because the dress code was optional.
Yeah.
Phil, who's usually our technical director, Phil, who's usually in his overalls, had put his best three-piece on.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, come on, we're going to have to do something like this. So I said, we'll both go up and get the award. I should have had it on the desk.
Should have done.
Never mind. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
We'll do a cut somewhere.
You can. There it is. So we walked up, and it was just like Phil's sort of bit nervous and say, well, thank you very much, it's very nice. And I just thought, we're going to have to do something. I just said, it's the first time I've seen him in a suit. And he said, and I didn't expect this comeback, he said, yeah, I'm getting ready for my court appearance on Monday. Now, this is a technical person, for goodness sake. They don't come out with witticisms like that.
Yeah.
Forgive me, technical people,
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
But we had the audience in there.
Yeah, palm of your hand.
Brilliant. So we came away with this lovely award, which, depending on who you speak to, either looks like a slice of burnt toast or a gravestone for Ken and Barbie, because it's like made out of wood, and beautiful, beautiful thing. But so it was nice.
Of course,
Congratulations.
To,
Well done.
to receive recognition for an idea that came out of sheer
And
desperation.
it makes you feel you're not flogging a dead horse or wasting your time. It's an achievement award, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And there's lots of celebrations of community radio on Saturday and at the weekend, and quite rightly so, because it's something that people do pour their heart and soul into from up and down the land. And some stations have got more gadgets and gizmos than we have, but it's definitely the most growing, vibrant sector of radio.
Radio has and always will be the type of media that paints better pictures, because they're all up here in your imagination, not on a screen like a TV or a cinema. You paint those. Do you remember Journey into Space on the Light programme?
Absolutely, yeah.
Those pictures in your mind in the 1950s, fantastic. Dan Dare, Pilot of the Future.
Absolutely.
Take your pick on Radio Luxembourg. Happy days.
My dad told me about
Dick Barton, Special Agent.
Yeah, Snowy.
the devil's
His
chase.
right hand man. Happy to see now. Years ago, but still up here.
It still takes.
Still remembered.
The thing is, one of our most successful programmes, I believe, which you are going to be starring upon momentarily, is called the Wireless Programme.
Yeah.
In an afternoon, and this is something which we were very keen to. Again, it's all about differentiation. We don't want to be up against a breakfast programme with Zoe Ball or whoever it is these days. We can't compete with the likes of that. If you like that sort of thing, you're going to stick with it.
And she only gets £1 million a year anyway.
Exactly.
She gets
Similarly,
Yeah.
the afternoon. So we came up with this concept of radio for the, forgive us, more mature listener.
What are you saying?
I'm not looking at
Steady
anybody.
on there now. What
I'm
are you
not
saying,
looking
boy?
at anybody. But
Has your career just flown out?
it's our most listened to popular programme. We have about 25,000
Nostalgia, isn't
listeners.
it? I think
dipping
nostalgia is
in
the
through
word, isn't it?
So
It is,
but it's
people
powerful.
remember what it was.
Because a lot of old people, there's an out for them.
And do you want to hear the funniest thing?
Go on.
You've got all these TV programmes and certain radio ones that are doing competitions and offering you a prize of a couple of tickets for this, that, or the other, or a bit of money. We have a quiz every afternoon, and it's basically guess who's singing the record. And if there's nobody that rings in, then they'll do the infamous wireless programme clue. So if it's somebody like Cliff Richard, then they'll go. Think of the White. His first name's got the White something.
In Dover.
The White Cliff. And his surname is Wendy's surname
Keith's
Keith's
brother,
name.
yeah.
So and people then start ringing up, and the phone line goes ballistic. And it's all for the kudos of winning points to get a trophy at the end of the year.
At one of your meet and
At
greet
one
parties.
of the meet and greets. That's another thing. You'll have to tell me to shut up, but I was waiting for you to tell me to
he's
shut
a
up.
man.
But I mean, the one of the nice things
Thinking of
again.
ideas for our show.
One of the unique things about community radio is that you can actually get to meet your listeners, or some a tiny percentage, albeit.
You don't want to meet ours.
Yeah.
We
invited them.
You'll actually have these walks in the hills, don't you? Go and rambles.
The summer stroll and the autumn ambles. Yeah,
That's great.
People come along just to,
Of course.
and there's no ego or anything like that. People don't do this they don't do it for money. They don't do it for ego. They just do it because they believe in a valuable community asset.
It's magic, and it's being a part of that magic.
You've done
That
it.
is community radio.
I'd like to say thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to
Thank you.
pontificate about it. Because,
Thank you for your expertise
not
and
many
the answer
people
to all our questions. Now, before we go, where are the 39 steps?
John Buchan wrote it.
He did, but where are the 39 steps?
I don't know whether
Do you know whichever programme you look with Robert Donat, with Kenneth Moore, or with Robert Powell?
Is that a MacGuffin?
Yeah. It's all-
Are they at Oldham Church?
yeah, well, that's it. In each book and each...
No one knows,
There are different concepts.
It fits this thing of it, doesn't it?
Right, I think we're going to go next door, aren't we? And going live with Posh Kev. What's his real name?
Posh Kevin Wells.
Kevin Wells.
Kevin.
Everyone calls him Posh Kev.
Nobody
Why?
knows him as that's Posh Kev.
Why?
Because if you compare the majority of presenters to Oldham Community Radio who talk like me with a
Broad
a very posh
Lancashire
accent,
Yeah.
Kev, on the other hand, has this thing that he had it in the 70s when he was DJing around the clubs and
Oh,
pubs,
yeah.
and he's got this really nice posh accent, so it's just Posh Kev.
Right.
Better be like what you've got.
Yeah, let's go and talk to Posh
Well
Kev.
then.
No.
No, want to rough your head.
So you've come into community radio.
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
Brilliant.
Bags of
Yeah.
money.
Margaret, just trying to get a chair behind you.
It's beauty of being live, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like community radio. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I started over in Failsworth. You remember when we was over in Failsworth?
Over the driving test place.
That's right.
I do.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
Yeah, and then I was, a guest on Colin and Barbara's show.
So was I with Tony Berry, God bless him, one of the Horton Weavers.
Oh, right.
I was with Barbara Dignan on it was shortly before he passed. He had very bad problems with his larynx.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I think he had cancer of the
Yeah,
throat.
yeah.
It wasn't long after that he passed. But
Oh, dear.
I remember it with great affection. That was the last time I got to see him. And Barbara Dignan, but I believe she's coming back.
Well, I wish she would, but she rang me this morning and said she's not coming back, so... I
Yeah,
don't
she
know.
would. She'll come back. She'll come. I don't think she'd come back on a regular basis, but I'm sure as
She'd pop in now and
yeah,
again.
I'm sure. And Jerry's going in hospital, So
Oh, yeah, well, I think that's the problem. I think she's
I know.
looking after poor
He's a
Jerry.
survivor. Jerry is tough as old boots. There's no problem there with
Oh,
him.
right.
So me and Flynny, this is my
Why have you got
compa-
headphones on?
because I'm listening to the music and you don't need to. You're the contributor. You'll respond to what Posh Kev and I ask you because you
Yes.
don't need to.
It's like a police
But you've just missed the
delegation.
Peanut Vendor by Jack Payne and the
I heard
BBC
it.
Dance
I did hear
Orchestra.
it,
Yeah, I used to play it. That was my intro when I was with the BBC and GMR before it reverted back to Radio Manchester.
Yeah.
And it worked well. I'm having it played at my funeral.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, not long to go now.
What do you mean not long?
Well,
to
I've
go?
had 3 heart attacks. What else have I
Well,
had?
so have I. I've had
I
3.
had COVID-19 Delta, and I've still got long COVID 16 months down the line. So how long do you want to live for? I'm 74.
I'm 76.
Trombones led the big parade and 110 cornets. I remember it well. How do you
Yeah.
feel about it? Hey, you're no stranger to the old ticker problem either.
No, I'm not. I've had 4 stents put in.
How long do you want to live for, you greedy?
Competition,
Well, I don't
isn't it?
know.
You greedy chap, yeah?
You've got to keep going. That's the answer.
You have indeed, and my colleague Flynny, he'll tell you he's not in best of health, are you, mate?
Are you all right, Flynny?
Peak of physical fitness.
Okay.
No, I was ill.
Is this
at the
Mr.
end.
Sandman?
I was ill. What am I?
I don't know where that came from. Just shot in
It sounded like the Cordettes, Mr.
It
Sandman.
was, yes, the Sandman, yeah.
Send me a dream, make my complexion like peaches and cream.
That's the one.
Does it sound like Dino then? Do you
Yeah.
know, for years I led everybody on radio to believe that Dean Martin was born in Ancoats.
Really?
And I lied as near to the truth as I could, and it got to Manchester Postbag in the evening news. People writing up, settle this argument for me, will you? Was Dean Martin born in Steubenville, Ohio, or was he born in Ancoats? Now, I lied as near to the truth as I could. I said he was born Dino Paul Crocchetti. Fact. He was born in 1917. Facts. His father was a barber. He had an outlet shop on Oldham Road cutting hair. Not true. And then they emigrated when he was 9 years of age to Steubenville, Ohio. True. That they came from Ohio, but they didn't live in Ancoats. And I kept it up for 12 years. And on the last day, Kev, when I was finishing my programme, I said, listener, I've got to be honest with you. Dean Martin was never, ever born in Ancoats. It was Frank Sinatra.
Really?
And then I said, bye-bye. And that was the last broadcast I did at the BBC.
Does he really?
Yeah. I was supposed to work a week's notice, but... No, a month's notice, but... When Dave Lee Travis packed in on Radio 1 and Radio 2, he said there are certain things happening in the station that I don't agree with. Well, I wouldn't have done that, you know. It's actually using the station. It's like assassination, you know. I just went out with a bang and that was it.
A whimper.
Yeah, but I've come back now in a whimper. I'm on the Posh Kev show, so who knows where it could lead to. Yeah, but I listen regularly to Oldham Community, and I think if anybody can't get that quiz you do in the afternoon, they want the red test.
Well, the Margaret's behind there. She answers all the.
She gives all the answers.
I know.
What were those? What were they called?
The answers. It's him that drops you in it. I always get told off.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Giving you a bit back there, Kevin.
Who is it now? And then he says it loud from here, and everybody can hear it over the radio.
She said I talk too loud.
He's winging up now.
No, you don't talk too loud, Kev. You do what most radio presenters do, and that's you project.
Project?
She's
Yeah,
upset
no.
now. Looks out.
No, she's gone to answer the phone.
Has she?
Yeah, somebody's going to talk to her now.
All right, because we've got Carl with us, our cameraman and soundman, all combined here.
Yeah,
you see.
yeah.
So you're coming through in glorious Technicolor.
Oh, really?
And you're going to
Yeah.
see this. It's going to be on Salford Media. It's going to be on YouTube, Flynny. What else have they got planned?
Fred and Flynny show.
Fred and Flynny show. That's
I
on
watched
Salford
Fred and
Media.
Flynny show. It's good.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's me and him.
Yeah, I know.
Do we look different in person? I look a bit like Brad Pitt close up. No,
Brad Pitt.
or is it Bradford Pitt? What is it?
Clark Gable.
Flynny looks like Benjamin Franklin, according to Carl.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a photo in existence hung in the White House,
Yeah, it's true.
and somebody sent it to me and said, "Is this one of your relatives?" In all seriousness,
And honest to God, it's a dead
It
ringer
is.
for Flynny
It
in a
is quite
powdered wig.
like him.
It's got a powdered
wig, the
wig.
blue belt. In fact, I might get one of them.
Yeah, you do the part with your toodle
Yeah,
scarf, Flynny. You'd do a bomb with that,
Blue
mate.
powdered suit and pantaloons.
Powdered
Yeah.
suit.
And of course, a scent bottle for when you pass those degenerative people in the lower areas that you
It
don't.
won't be sent in it though. will it?
No. He likes a bit of a whiff, does Flynny? He's a
Oh,
bit of a sniffer.
Really snuffy.
Kevin,
Yeah, all right,
it
yeah.
just besmirches my good name.
Do you know one of my careers when I was down the pit? I was on the coalface for 6 years, and my diet was snuff. I used to snort snuff, and then I'd chew tobacco. And then when I come up pit from the cage, I'd go to my locker and I'd open a packet of Capstan Full Strength and I'd smoke 3 of them before I showered.
I mean, I
God.
you that.
3. It's hardly when I diagnosed my own career, it's hardly surprising. If I'd known I was going to live this long, I'd have took better care of myself. I would honestly.
Well, we don't know when we're going to live, do we? I mean, I smoke 60 a day.
You still do?
No, I don't now. Goodness me, no.
Think of the
I
money you've
used to.
saved. What's a packet of fags? 12 quid, isn't it?
It is now, I think.
12
yeah,
quid.
but-
You just save yourself 36 quid a day.
I know, yeah, but I wasn't smoking it when it was that. I mean, it was about £1.50 a packet.
Still a whack though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was then, yeah.
It's still £4.50 a day, and that's multiplied by 7, so that's over 30 quid a week, isn't it, that
Yeah.
you saved?
Yeah, I've had more money in the bank since I stopped.
Do you think that was responsible for your heart attack?
Well, they seem to think so, yeah. They seem to think it
Have you got a
contributed
lovely
to it.
voice?
It's very posh.
Kevin, you just complimenting your voice. You've
Oh,
got really
thank
mellifluous. Mellifluous is the word.
Do you know the only chap, you've brought something to mind, one of our previous guests, that sounds similar?
Yeah, for the BBC man.
Really?
Granada.
Granada was it?
Martin.
Colin Weston,
Colin Weston.
the continuity
Yeah, he's got a
director
lovely
at Granada
tone,
Television. He had a lovely
Yeah,
voice.
right.
We'll have to get him back again. He was okay. Get him and Posh Kev on the challenge of the gobs.
Yeah. Well,
What's that?
Talking.
comments
Gobs.
have been made about mine. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. many comments are made about Flynny's Bob. But
It's been like the blow what reason it is.
But there's personalities. Now, at one time, if you had a regional accent, why, if you come from Newcastle or anything like that, you're not getting radio, you know, man.
Welsh.
Yeah. And if you had a Welsh voice, or you come from the valleys and you come in, you know, I've not got a chance. But look at Owain. Look at Owain on the BBC. Owain with his posh suits.
Oh, Owain, yeah.
Owain, yes,
yeah.
from Wales, top jolly.
Yeah.
It's a Radio 2 now.
Been snaffled, taken away.
Yeah, he went,
Snaffled.
didn't he? Yeah.
So
Oh.
now it's acceptable. People love accents. I remember Radio 1 starting off a long time ago, and it was all regional accents, and they had the concept. Stuart Henry, hello,
Yeah.
my friends, welcome to Stuart Henry Show.
I remember that, yeah.
You know, and you got all these people, Richard Parks and Dave Lee Travis with his
Give us a
Mancunian
now
accent.
then.
Oh, how's about that then? Goodness gracious me, how's about that then? Now then, guys and gals. Oh. Yeah.
Hey, your old chum, I watched a documentary last night on Wilco Johnson, who used to be in the Dr. Feelgood, one of my favourite.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a hit record, I think it was back in the night, and they're on the BBC, Top of the Pops, and introduced them was Dave Eager.
My mate Dave.
Yeah, so it would be 1974,
Yeah.
and he was dressed as a doctor, a surgeon.
Did he have a
He had a
stethoscope?
on.
Yeah,
He
that's
had a
Dave.
young girl draped over his head.
Living on the West Coast now, you know?
West Coast of.
England. It's not California. He's up at Ross Hall Beach. I see him quite regularly, Dave.
LA,
He's a
Lower
good, Yellow Ironcoats. He's a good old boy, isn't he? And he started off on Radio 1 with, we did our first Radio 1 club together at the Barbarella in October the 20th, 1970. Etched in stone on my mind.
birthday.
Yeah, that's why I always remember your birthday on the 20th.
Did your paths ever cross, Kevin, with this rascal?
Only since I came to do community radio, that's all.
What was your area, Kevin? Where did you operate from?
Cleethorpes, Grimsby, Cleethorpes, Lincolnshire.
Big Northern Soul area now.
Oh, it was, yeah. Oh, talk about it, yeah.
Tommy Hunt and all those guys that come across.
Yeah.
Frank Wilson, Do I Love You? Indeed I Do.
Yeah, we
All
had
that
the
stuff.
Winter Gardens at the Cleethorpes. That
Yeah.
used to be every week. It did all-nighters, you know,
Right.
dancing all night, silly drop.
Yeah, and they used to do in those days. I remember Flynny educating me on amphetamines and things like that that he used to take to keep away. I always got high on my own spirit. I never
did, yeah.
I never needed drugs. I
No,
never
you
took
don't.
them. I've tried it. I tried cocaine once. It never did a thing for me.
No.
I took a sniff of that because I've snuffed normal tobacco snuff. Somebody once put speed in my drink. I said it's had no effect on me. He said, you're not shut up talking for 3 days. I said, exactly. It's had no effect on me. And then I tried a bit of that smoking nonsense, you know. I've tried it. I'm not proud of it. I tried it. It didn't
Is
do a
Oldham
thing.
Radio ready for this? Drug revelations of
Oh, I don't think so.
Margaret said, "Oh, don't."
Oh, Margaret.
Yeah,
said
she's
that.
back. She's got a whip.
Okay.
Who was that, Margaret?
Peter from Chester said, why are you playing the same ones twice? And
What
he
do you
wanted
mean?
it by Dean Martin, not Dave King.
Who said
Memories
that?
are made of this. Peter from Chester.
Peter
Oh,
from
right.
Chester. Stop
Well,
moaning.
I didn't pay it twice, didn't I?
He played it at the beginning, yeah.
Where's he from?
I'll get you out of
Played
this.
it twice.
Chester.
Take one warm
Have
and
you
tender
played the diary?
kiss.
No, do you want the
Can I tell
diary
you
on?
the history of the diary.
Oh, I do that. Do the
She rang
diary.
you about the diary, didn't she?
When we used to watch Wow O'Neill first, listen, and then we used to listen to you, then Christine Prentice.
That's right,
But
yeah.
There was a pub up Huddersfield Road called the Globe, and the landlady used to sing the diary. And I didn't know who it was by, so I rang you and asked you, and you didn't know.
He wouldn't do.
I don't go up there.
So who sings the diary?
Never
Well, it's
heard.
Neil Sedaka. But I rang Christine
Are
Prentice.
you sure
and
you're
she-
talking about the diary? Because he sang Calendar Girl. I love my calendar
the
girl.
diary. Have you got
Yes,
the
you
diary?
did. Yes, I've got the diary here.
Well,
Do you want
that's
to?
Put it on, Kev. Let's all be out of our misery.
Yeah, I'll just get it in the old machine. And
Margaret's confusing me.
is she? She said she rang you about the diary. Is that right?
Yeah, a long time ago when you
Oh, yeah, that was 20 odd years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah, of course I remember it. It was on a Tuesday.
The phone's still ringing.
Is it?
Oh, God
yeah,
bless
but
Margaret. Where's Louis? Do you like working with
brilliant.
crackpots?
She's popular, Margaret.
Oh, I know she
Oh,
is.
my goodness.
She rang me 20 years ago.
Right, we'll have the diary for Margaret, shall we?
That's all you're listening to.
I'd rather not.
That's going all right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going good. But perhaps you need a bit more music because perhaps we're doing too much rabbit.
Probably. We've got half an hour yet, anyway.
Why? What happens then?
You go, oh, you're
Well,
thrown out.
no, we.
No, it's Peter from Kinfield, not Peter from Chester.
Oh, you're in trouble.
Kinfield.
I'm in trouble.
You're going to have to apologise and
Big
say
Pete.
Duckingfield, not Chester.
Oh, anything,
Oh,
anything we say, he's straight on the phone, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
The good thing about it is that our listeners, they put us right all the time. It's
This is exactly what I've just said next door. I listen to Oldham Community Radio because it's not perfect.
No.
And you make mistakes.
That's
And they're
true.
funny mistakes. They're
Yeah.
laughable.
Yeah.
Do you know Susan?
What?
You know Susan?
Media, we'll send him some lard.
Yeah.
Well, just hang on a minute, what?
Body
Send
weight.
him some lard.
Who?
Apology. Peter from Duckingfield.
Oh no, because he might not ring again if we're funny.
No, now we're I know it. I know Duckingfield, and
We're not nasty
you
with that.
mentioned
No,
Duckingfield, and now I've got a memory from that,
Yeah.
from Foundry Street in Ducky.
Oh,
It's a good memory. It's nothing. What you're never estrange your listener. You know that, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Many a time I've hung up, gone like that, and called them all them buggers under the sun.
But you know Susan? She said she made a mistake. I said, well, people like it. But I don't listen on the Thursday morning.